Alright, lock in because today I'm going to be recapping and giving my thoughts on the Survivor 43 journey of Jesse and Cody. These two brought entertainment, played hard, and made big moves. So in this video, I'm going to analyze them and give them some player performance grades after every episode and see how good they really were at the game. So enough wasting time, it's time to get in here, let's go. The strategic brilliance started before they even got on their tribe's beach. In the reward challenge, when Dwight was trying to get the flint, Cody gave Dwight the idea to put the flint into the opening on the pole that they were using, then slide it, and it actually worked. It's a relatively small moment in this entire journey, but it's a nice setup, and it was nice for Cody that he got to be the MVP of this challenge with his quick thinking. When they got to camp, bonds were already seemingly starting to form between Justine and Noelle. People thought that they were close, so Cody formed an alliance with Jesse and Nneka as a counter alliance of sorts, and he just felt good with Jesse and Nneka naturally, so he took that opportunity while they were alone to make that alliance. So within this alliance, Cody set up Justine's future departure by saying that he doesn't trust salespeople, despite being one himself, but he painted that target on Justine's back and tried to make salespeople feared. While this was happening, Cody basically locked in with the Cody, Jesse, and Nneka group, while Jesse expanded his reach. Like, he felt good about that group, but he kept all options open to him by getting in good with the women, Noelle and Justine. And Justine said she could see herself trusting Jesse, so at this point, Jesse is in the middle of the Vesey tribe. After this, Jesse talked about his gang background and how he went to juvenile hall, but when he got one of the highest scores ever on a GED test, that changed his mindset and got him to start turning his life around. And now he has a PhD in political science, and Jesse wanted to represent and show those juvenile hall kids that they can turn their life around. Now getting back to the gameplay. This isn't a Jesse Cody thing, but it potentially could have played a factor in the vote, so I'll just say that Dwight went on a journey and lost his vote, putting the Jesse, Cody, and Nneka alliance in a much better spot. Also, Cody didn't trust Dwight's story, which will be relevant later. And yeah, that's all for their involvement in episode 1, as Baka went to tribal council in this episode. For player grades, I would give Jesse an A+ and Cody an A. They both contributed heavily to the last leg of both of the challenges, so that cancels out. And they have a majority alliance because Dwight lost his vote, which is great. But Jesse gets a plus tacked onto his grade because he was able to reach more people in Noelle, in Justine. Like, Jesse's in the middle, while Cody only has the 3 with him, Nneka, and Jesse. So he's really relying on Jesse, while Jesse has more options to work with. While looking for idols, Jesse and Dwight talked about the pairs forming between Cody and Nneka and Justine and Noelle. So Jesse made Dwight his island wife, so Dwight could be included in something. And so Jesse could have another option because at this point, the pairs were true. Like, even though Jesse is in the middle of this tribe, no one at this point in the game would say that Jesse is their number one. So that's why he locked in this partnership that Dwight was actually trusting. He said that he could see this partnership lasting for the whole game. Because of this trust, Jesse gained the information that Dwight didn't trust Cody because he's a wild card, which is very useful information and just puts Jesse in even more of a power position, especially since he knows that Dwight doesn't have a vote, so he's in the driver's seat. But despite Dwight wanting to target Cody, Jesse actually wanted Justine out because she's annoying, which will be important later. Vesey lost immunity because of Nneka's challenge weakness, which was a big topic of discussion in this episode and future episodes. It's actually the reason why Noelle, Dwight, and Justine wanted Nneka out because of tribe strength. So Justine pitched a vote split on Nneka and Cody with Nneka as the main target. So as a counter, Jesse was able to tell Nneka and Cody that Justine was going for them, and they decided that Justine was going to be the vote because of that, along with her telling Jesse that she's a good liar and she doesn't trust him, which somewhat contradicts what she said in the previous episode when she said she could see herself trusting Jesse. Guess that never really came to be. So yeah, the votes were all on Justine. They had the majority because Dwight didn't have a vote, but a wrench got thrown into their plan. Cody picked up a beware advantage and lost his vote until he could get a specific bead off of each of his tribe members' bags and make a bracelet, which would give him his vote back and an idol. Jesse didn't like that Cody took the advantage, but at the end of the day, he, Neka, and Cody got the beads by getting Cody to make this hat out in the open and openly giving him beads to help him make his hat and making it look like a tribe thing, I would say. Noelle had potential to ruin this plan when she didn't really want to give up her bead, which was left as a cliffhanger going into this tribal council, but at the end of the day, she gave up her bead as Cody got his vote back, an idol, and they successfully voted out Justine, which Dwight wasn't really feeling. He was the most upset with Jesse because they were the closest and he just blindsided him. But that wraps up this episode. For player grades here, I gotta give Jesse an A and Cody a C+. Jesse was in the middle of the tribe and had all of the information available to him, putting him in the driver's seat for this decision. The only slight negative is him blindsiding Dwight, which for how the game played out could have been very bad, and I'll talk about that in episodes to come. But in a vacuum, I don't really care that he blindsided Dwight because Dwight had no vote, and since Jesse seemed to commit to the Cody and Neka side, like he's in the majority, while Cody on the other hand was targeted and put himself in a really dangerous position by risking his vote. He's very fortunate that Jesse decided to keep him around because Jesse didn't like his call to take that beware advantage. Then looking at the vote, although it didn't happen because Noelle and Justine didn't play optimally, they decided to split the votes on Neka and Cody, meaning that Cody getting his vote back was a suspenseful moment, but it didn't really mean anything at the end of the day. But if he had no vote at this tribal council, he could have been in some real danger if Noelle and Justine played optimally and forced a tie, which is why I don't like the move to take the beware advantage. And although he dug himself out of the hole by getting the beads and he has an idol now, he dug himself out of a hole that he created. The only positive thing here is that he's in the majority and Jesse and Neka worked so hard to help him get the beads, which speaks to his social game and his likability. But yeah, Cody put himself in a lot of danger in this episode, and although he stayed, I can't really give him the highest grade ever. In episode 3, Jesse felt like Noelle and Dwight could potentially target him because of the blindside from the previous episode, but he felt good being in the majority with Neka and Cody, like he's in the power position and he knows it. Fast forwarding to the immunity challenge, Vesey lost again because of Neka's challenge weakness, which became an even bigger topic of discussion in this episode and even got Jesse and Cody wondering if they should cut their number one to have a better chance at winning. This was basically the decision in this episode. It was seemingly in Jesse and Cody's hands whether they would be loyal to Neka or take out Noelle, and they actually heavily considered this. Neka is extremely loyal and she reminds Jesse of his mother that passed away, while Noelle isn't someone that they locked in with, but despite having one leg, she was probably their best challenge performer, so it was a tough decision. But I said that it was seemingly their decision because Noelle went on a journey and got a steal a vote advantage, meaning that she could steal a vote from the Jesse, Cody, and Neka 3, and basically she and Dwight would have 3 votes and the Jesse, Cody, and Neka 3 would only have 2 votes. But the steal a vote didn't even come into play, like they seemingly made a group decision to just vote out Neka because of her bad challenge performance. And that was the episode. For the player grades, it's rough because it wasn't as dynamic of an episode as the last one, and it was just a straightforward decision where Jesse and Cody were seemingly in the driver's seat. I would give them both A's for this episode. They voted out a challenge liability in order to go forward into the game with the best competitors, which would give them a better chance at making it to the mergatory phase, whatever, when the tribes were all on one beach. Good call. But some small gripes are that I don't like that they don't know about Noel's steal a vote advantage, which if they lost another challenge, it probably could have been one of them. Like, they just don't have all of the information right now, and that's not good. But I can't knock it too much because they made a move to where if it worked out, they won't see tribal council again in the pre-merge phase, so I like it. In episode 4, I'll just be honest here, this is the start of the Vessi winning streak. They got first place in everything and they never went back to tribal council in the pre-merge phase, just adding more validity to the NECA move. But even though they won out, there's still a decent amount of stuff for Jesse and Cody to participate in before the merge, which is nice that they're still involved. In this episode, Vessi won a reward and the ability to go to another tribe's camp and raid them. They had to send over a representative, and when Cody wanted to be that guy, that led to some disagreements. Dwight thought that he was more diplomatic than Cody and that he's a wild card, and this was said without the knowledge of the beware shenanigans. Dang, Cody. Then when Cody wanted to take a machete from the tribe that they stole from, which would completely ruin them, Jesse didn't like that because that's going to ruin relationships, which matter because the merge is coming up soon. Dwight and Noel suggested taking some fishing gear, but Cody didn't like that. He thought that they were being too soft. So he went over to the Cocoa Beach and led right off with saying that he's here to take the machete, which they weren't rocking with, so they negotiated and gave him fishing gear and limes, which is more than he came for, which Carla recognized and told the Cocoa tribe. Next, at the immunity challenge, Vessi won, then mainly Noel and Dwight helped the Baka tribe get second place so that they could weaken the Cocoa tribe, which upset Coco. And that was the end of Jesse and Cody's involvement in this episode. For the player grades, I would give Jesse and Cody both A+ grades. Jesse didn't really have much in this episode, so I'll just give him a good grade for existing and keeping relationships alive. But for Cody, I was on the fence about him because the way that his tribe was talking about him before the raid wasn't that good, but at the end of the day, he went to Coco and made it seem like it was a tribe decision to take the machete, so he couldn't get the sole blame for whatever happened. He let off with that smartly, which freaked the Coco tribe out so much that they gave him more than what he asked for, to which only Carla really caught on to that. But most of the Coco tribe was just glad that he didn't take the machete, which was good enough for him, and that keeps relationships alive. Speaking of keeping relationships alive, I love how in the immunity challenge, Jesse and Cody seem to sit back and let Dwight and Noel help Baka, so Coco can't really be mad at them. It's a subtle episode because they didn't go to tribal council, but it was a masterful episode for them in terms of maintaining relationships, which is why they both get A+ grades. Episode 5 was a quiet episode for Vessi. Vessi won immunity, which could have ended their episode right there, but Jesse went on a journey with Janine and Gio, risked his vote and lost it, and let everyone in his tribe know. For the player grades, I would give Cody no grade because he really got nothing in this episode, and I would give Jesse a B. It's just a really questionable call to risk his vote in a tribe of only 4 contestants. Even if it worked out for him, I probably wouldn't give him an A+ because it was just still like a questionable call and a very risky move regardless. In episode 6, the tribes went to Mergatory, where stuff was exposed. Noel told Owen that Jesse didn't have a vote, so That's not great. And what should have been a positive, with Noelle telling some Baka tribe members about how she loves Cody and that he made a hat with some beads, that let Ellie and Janine know that Cody had the idol, which wasn't great, but they left that wanting a Baka-Vessi alliance, so there's a positive. For the Mergatory challenge, Jesse and Cody got split up, meaning that no easy vote for them in this episode. One of them was guaranteed going to be at risk, which was Cody because his team lost. And speaking of at risk he was. He wasn't the main vote, as most wanted to take a bite out of that Coco power structure, despite Baka actually having the most numbers, but he was the decoy name that Ellie was using to tell the Coco tribe to lure them into a false sense of security, so that's still not really that good. But something that was good for Cody was that Noelle and Gabler were putting in a good word for him at the feast, and Gabler threw Ellie's name out there, which is actually going to help Cody because when everyone got back to camp and compared notes, they found out that Ellie was stirring up all of this chaos, and since her name was already out there, Jesse and Cody decided to latch onto the plan to vote her out and push the agenda even more that she was throwing Cody's name out there instead of joining in on the Baka plan to take down the Coco power structure. So Ellie got voted out, and that's the end of this episode. For the player grades, I'm going to give Jesse and Cody both A grades. It's very impressive how Jesse was able to make it through this round despite people knowing that he didn't have a vote and could potentially be an expendable player because he had no voting power. I also liked how he got Dwight in on the plan to potentially repair some trust for blindsiding him at the Justine vote. Also, it's great that Cody was able to build great relationships to have people wanting to keep him around even before Ellie blew up her game. Like, it's impressive how he was a decoy name that possibly could have got votes, but he didn't receive a single vote. I didn't like that Cody's name was out there, but these guys were never really in danger, and I would say that they made a good move by getting Ellie out because it weakened the Baka numbers and they got out a chaotic player that put Cody's name out there. So they both had great episodes. In episode 7, Jesse and Cody were quiet for the first half of the episode because they were in the vote, and the early part focused on the folks that were left out of the vote and Gabler's chaos. So the most noteworthy thing that happened in the early portion of this episode was that Cody got second place in the immunity challenge behind Gabler, which showed that he could potentially be a good competitor in challenges. But really, their involvement comes after the challenge, where they were included in this Baka and Vessi plan to vote out Ryan or James. However, this plan took a nosedive when James found the knowledge is power advantage that, I'm just gonna say it right here, he totally ruined it. Bro was going around saying, knowledge is power, which is ironic because he's giving up the knowledge of his advantage and giving everyone else the power to plan around it, which is exactly what happened. A lot of advantage swapping happened, but the main thing to note is that Jesse got Cody's idol, and as revealed in the following episode, he got Janine's idol from Dwight. For the vote, it was actually Jesse going against Noelle's plan of wanting to vote James out because he trusts Carla more, and they agreed to get Noelle by surprise because she was dangerous. This led to Jesse and Cody having a strategy talk where Jesse wanted Noelle out, but Cody wanted Dwight out because he's eerie and he's good at the game, which wasn't what Jesse really wanted, but at the end of the day, it weakens Noelle and gives Cody a sense of agency. So it was never really shown how Dwight became the target for the Cocos and Sammy that actually voted with the Cocos and Jesse and Cody, but it was framed like Jesse and Cody could either go with the Vessi Baka plan to vote James out or flip to take out Dwight. So the votes had to be there somewhere, so I'm guessing Jesse and Cody talked it over with Coco before Tribal Council, because from what this episode showed, only Jesse and Cody were targeting Dwight. This is really a limitation of the 40-minute episodes. Stuff like Australian Survivor and the more recent Survivor seasons don't have this problem really. But yeah, getting back to Survivor 43, Jesse and Cody decided to go with Coco again and officially betray Vesey by voting out Dwight, a Vesey tribe member. For player grades, I'm going to give Jesse and Cody both A+. There's a lot to like. It's impressive how they didn't vote with that Noel, Owen, and Janine type of group in the previous episode, but they still wanted to work with Jesse and Cody. And yeah, they weren't targeted in this episode, so that's always nice. I was considering giving Cody the plus and Jesse just a regular A because Cody ultimately got his way voting out Dwight, and this is like the one move that he can take sole ownership of. But Jesse has two idols now. Cody's idol, which he let Jesse hold on to for the entire game, and he had Janine's idol that everyone thought went home with Dwight. So that bond that he built with Dwight paid off, and I would say that was a good trade-off. He didn't get Noelle out, but he weakened her and got two idols that no one really knows about except for Cody knowing about his idol, but that's it. Great episode for them. In episode 8, it's the start of the jury phase. After the vote, Jesse kept on pushing the narrative that Janine's idol went home with Dwight. Also, Owen and Noelle figured out that Jesse and Cody flipped, which isn't the best thing in the world, but Jesse and Cody are now part of this 7 that Cody felt good about, but Jesse questioned the 7. Also, Sammy wasn't really feeling the 7 like that because he was at the bottom. He chose to join the 7 of Coco, Jesse, and Cody and him and be at the bottom of that. So he wanted to flip. So the 7 wasn't as stable as it could have been. The only notes for the immunity challenge are that Jesse stepped out for the rice negotiation. So I'm guessing that he felt confident about his position. Also, Cody got 2nd place yet again, this time to Owen. For the vote, it was between Ryan and Janine. Janine because Jesse and Cody realized that she could be a free agent that someone picks up, and they just wanted to take advantage of the numbers for a simple vote. Then Ryan became an option because Sammy didn't want to be at the bottom, and it got a little bit of traction because Ryan wasn't strategizing and Cassidy didn't want another woman to go home. But guys like Cody, Jesse, and James got the vote back onto Janine, saying that they can get Ryan out later, but they want to utilize the numbers while they have them. And by the end of it all, it was basically a unanimous vote to send Janine home, with Cassidy basically casting somewhat of a sympathy vote. She claimed to know where the votes were going, so yeah, that's the episode. For the player grades, Jesse and Cody are both going to get A+ grades. They preserved the majority, and that's all that really matters. They made their bet with Coco and stuck to it for this vote, which was smart. It would keep them from being seen as flip-floppers and frantic players. All I can really say is good on them for keeping the majority together and not overthinking it and just having a simple vote. In episode 9, Jesse and Cody's story for this episode starts at the immunity challenge, where they got to be in a group together with Gabler, Ryan, and Cassidy. Cody won the whole challenge, meaning that his group got the advantage of going to tribal council second and seeing the person that was voted out in the other tribal council, which actually played a big role in this vote, with Gabler wanting to break up the three-headed monster of Cassidy, Carla, and James, Ryan wanting Cassidy out, and Cassidy wanting Ryan out and trusting Jesse and Cody. This really put Jesse and Cody in the middle of the tribe, where they could make the decision for the night between Ryan or Cassidy. Jesse and Cody talked through the vote, saying that they have other relationships to worry about, and if they get rid of Cassidy, Carla would be mad, so this guided their decision making. The plan that they proposed in the episode wasn't the actual plan by the end of it all. It was just shown to throw the viewers off. It actually got revealed that if James got voted out, then they would take Ryan out, so Carla could still have an ally and they could work with her, meaning that if Owen got voted out, they would have voted Cassidy out because they wanted to weaken the Coco power structure, but still leave Carla with an ally so she wouldn't be that mad at them and they could still work together. The plan that was presented in the show was the opposite of that, so they changed their minds. Just have to bring that up because the fallout after the winner was crowned was ugly, and Jesse got accused of lying when, like, no, he didn't actually lie. Be mad at the show, not Jesse. Anyways, so they locked in a ride or die alliance with Gabler, picked them up off the free agent market, and they voted accordingly. James being voted out meant that Ryan got voted out here, meaning that the Coco power structure already got weakened enough for Jesse and Cody's liking. And the episode ends with that. Jesse and Cody are both going to get A+ for this episode. Cody won immunity, so he couldn't be targeted, and Jesse was completely safe despite not winning immunity. They positioned themselves in the middle of that group to where they were never at risk and everyone wanted their votes. They locked in some trust with Gabler, and the first vote worked out perfectly where they didn't have to betray Carla like that. Sure, Ryan was part of the 7, but there were talks to get him out before this episode and Cassidy was closer to Carla, but it worked out perfectly to where they didn't have to betray Carla by voting out Cassidy. The power structure already got weakened when James was voted out, so they got that, and they could just vote Ryan out with no controversy. He didn't even seem to go to the jury bitter at them, so this episode played out perfectly for Jesse and Cody. In episode 10, when everyone regrouped, Jesse revealed in a confessional that he knew about Carla's idol. Also, he spent some time trying to set up Sammy's departure by agreeing with Noelle that Sammy was trying to play all sides. And Jesse feels good at this moment because there's a lot of distrust while he, Cody, and Gabler are in the middle, and Jesse has solid relationships with everyone. For the reward challenge, Noelle took Jesse on reward because he was always talking about family. At the reward, Jesse got a letter from his son telling him to get that money, baby, which reminded Jesse of the people that he was playing for, and it gave him more strength and confidence within the game. Back at camp, a plan to vote Noelle out was being cooked up, mainly between Carla, Gabler, and Cassidy, which Cody liked because Owen was her new Dwight, and every time they weakened Noelle, she came back with a new number 1. There was a Cassidy plan that was pitched by Sammy, and he talked to Owen about it, but it never quite got off the ground because Cassidy won immunity, which shifted all of the attention to Noelle. While Noelle was really trusting of Jesse, Cody, and Gabler, Jesse wanted Noelle out for similar reasons as Cody, and because she was building up a good resume, and that letter that he got from his son really inspired him to make a cutthroat move. So he set up an elaborate Noelle blindside that the show even made like a checklist for. Like, this really felt like a coronation edit for Jesse. He created a cover story to put Noelle at ease, he threw Sammy under the bus, and he gathered up all the votes that he needed to get Noelle out, which happened. The only hiccup was that while Gabler went along with the vote, he told Carla that Jesse and Cody were running things and he didn't like being surprised before tribal council. For the player grades, I'm going to give Jesse an A+ and Cody an A. Gabler painted a target on Jesse and Cody's backs and figured them out, but this blindside plan from Jesse was so masterful and it got rid of a potential threat to win the game. And Cody gets an A because he wasn't targeted and he was in the majority, which is enough to get an A. In episode 11, Gabler started planning against Jesse and Cody by telling Owen that Jesse and Cody flipped on the Carla plan and that he has a plan to get them, which is he and Owen, he has a plan to get them to the final 3. Cody said that he didn't want to face Sammy in fire making, so that's something, just more reason to vote him out along with the flipping. Also, Cody found this choose your champion advantage that let him bet on someone in the last gasp challenge, and if that person won, Cody would get immunity, and that would be revealed to everyone after the votes have been cast but before they're read, which even though he picked Owen and he was one of the winners of the challenge, that threat alone basically gave Cody implicit immunity, so no one was risking that, and he wasn't really in target talks like that anyways. Really, what this episode came down to was Carla wanting to get Cassidy out because they played similar games and Cassidy knew about Carla's idol. So since Carla was immune, that's what was going around camp. Vote out Cassidy. But Jesse was confused because if Carla wanted to vote Cassidy out, then that meant that Cassidy was expendable to Carla, and that wouldn't really weaken Carla like everyone wanted. Jesse thought that she was building new bridges, so he flipped the plan to Sammy because he thought that Carla was building new bridges with Sammy, and he's good at fire making and he's untrustworthy, so there were a lot of reasons to vote Sammy out. And to ruin Carla's game even more, Jesse told Owen that he wanted Carla to vote for Cassidy, so they're at odds. And later he said that it would make Carla look dumb to the jury by being left out of the vote. Also, a funny moment was when Jesse was explaining this to Owen and questioned why people were leaving him out of the loop when Jesse was part of that. And Owen knew because right after hearing his plan, he said that he didn't know if he could trust Jesse because he stabbed him in the back with all of those moves. So that's not good to hear for Jesse. The bigger conflict, however, was with Jesse and Cody, the main guys. Jesse wanted Sammy out because of the fire aspect and the possibility to tank Carla's jury by leaving her out of the vote, while Cody wanted Cassidy out because he didn't trust her, and Cassidy put up good fights and challenges while Sammy was a challenge loser. Ultimately, Sammy was voted out unanimously, but Cody and Jesse just didn't see eye to eye on this vote. For the player grades, I'm conflicted because there's positives and negatives to this move. On one hand, Jesse is getting out a good fire maker and a chaos merchant, but he left Cassidy in the game, a challenge competitor, and although he thought that Carla was drifting away from Cassidy, they just had a longer standing relationship than Carla and Sammy. Plus, why was the call to get out a fire maker? Fire making is the second part of the final four. The first part is immunity. So with this move, Jesse made a contingency plan if he lost the first round rather than increasing his chances to win the first round and not even having to worry about the fire making stuff. It's impressive that he got his way over Cody and they both weren't targeted in this round, but the only bit of negativity was Owen not trusting Jesse, but like in the end, they voted together. So really, the decision comes down to, was this a good move? I also have to take into account that he didn't get his intended outcome with Carla voting for Cassidy, so how important was this vote anyways? Like, was it even a good call? I'll give Jesse an A because both moves had positives and negatives. Like, he got rid of a chaos merchant, so that's nice, and he was able to get everyone on board, so they still trusted him. And I'll give Cody a B. Not a target, he's in on the vote, but he wasn't able to get Cassidy out, which for the game that he wanted to play, for his interests, voting Sammy out didn't align with that. It didn't align with Cody wanting to take out a challenge competitor. He's crafting Jesse's end game and not his own, which is why he has to get a B grade. Episode 12 is a big episode for sure. Because Jesse's plan failed, Owen kept the plan alive by telling Cassidy that Carla was going to vote for her, which Cassidy went to fact check and Jesse told her the truth after Carla lied to her. So ultimately, although Jesse's plan didn't really come to fruition at the vote, it still ended up happening where Cassidy and Carla are at odds with each other. At the reward challenge, Cody, Carla, and Owen's team won, and at the reward, Carla successfully convinced Cody and Owen that she didn't have an idol, which didn't buy her any favor. It just let Cody know that Carla was defenseless, and it's the perfect time to get Carla or Cassidy out, which Owen agreed with. While back at camp, The Alligabler started planting seeds about getting rid of Cassidy and Jesse's closest allies, Carla and Cody, because they played similar games, and if they were the final three, they would all have three different stories to tell, basically. Because of Cassidy, Jesse also learned for a guaranteed fact that Carla had an idol, and he threw out the possibility of Cody having an idol just to play along since the numbers were so thin. Somewhat of a small turning point for the Jesse and Cody alliance came when Jesse said in confessional that Cody and Carla are threats because they have a guaranteed path to the final five, but ultimately he trusted Cody more than Carla. When the winners got back, Gabler told Cody about Carla's idol, and Cody said he's playing his idol if Carla plays hers, and he said that one of the women will be leaving. They went to immunity, and Cassidy won immunity over Cody in a really close finish. She even called Jeff over before she even finished the puzzle all the way, which I guess is allowed, but whatever. So now, the obvious move is Carla. Cody went over to Carla and they both revealed that they had idols, and Cody pitched this plan. They tell everyone that they're playing their idol so they don't get voted for, and they get the vote on Gabler or Owen. Then after the vote, they just bypass the final five round with their idols and they're in the final four. Carla was all for this plan and started strong-arming Gabler into voting for Owen, while Cody revealed that this was just a plan to get Carla to not play her idol, and he started telling the guys about the real plan. Jesse got concerned because Cody's plan was a great plan for him and would add to his resume, and he talked about how he doesn't want to be seen as his +1 basically, and he doubts that he can beat Cody, and he has a family to take care of, so if he has to be more brutal, he will. So this Cody plan got him to realize that he's not beating this guy in a final tribal council, so he started playing against him. Jesse told Owen about Cody's idol and that Cody's going to be the vote, and Jesse's going to flush Carla's idol by playing Cody's idol, then take out Carla next. So Owen told Cassidy about this, and they told Gabler about this, and the plan was on until Cody asked for his idol back to show Carla. So Jesse just had to give it up as he didn't want to seem suspicious, which put the plan in jeopardy, and that's the cliffhanger that was left on. But Jesse got the idol back from Cody before tribal council. He played the idol on Owen, which got Carla to play her idol out of fear, and the votes read Cody 4 times as he was blindsided by his closest ally in the game. As Cody was leaving, Jesse went to shake his hand. Cody looked like he wasn't going to, but then he shook his hand and he said that Jesse had nothing to explain. Cody left the game, but that doesn't end the video. Jesse still has a game to play, but that puts an end to the Jesse and Cody era in the game. For the player grades, I'm going to give Jesse an A+ and Cody an F. And the F isn't just because he got voted out, but it's because he really shouldn't have been voted out. He shouldn't have been voted out here because he had an idol, he had a way out of this situation, but he gave it to Jesse. Also, another aspect that makes it worse is that it was a blindside. So even if he had his idol, he just didn't know it was coming. He didn't have all of the information available to him. He came into this tribal council completely defenseless with no knowledge and no idol, which is a terrible predicament to be in. Also, considering that Cassidy won immunity in this episode when Cody wanted to vote her out in the previous episode, that just makes it even more of a mistake. Butterfly effect can happen, but in a vacuum, it's hard to not think that Cody wins this challenge here if Cassidy got voted out in the previous episode. Then he makes it all the way to the final 4 because he had an idol for the final 5 round, but that was not the case. While Jesse gets an A+ because although the move might have potential to backfire in the future, I love that he had enough social capital here to round up the votes and not get any votes against him. Like I said, it was a blindside, leaving Cody with no chance to plot against him. Cody at least gave him a high five and understood, which is good for Jesse's jury management. And with that move of flushing Cody and Carla's idols, Jesse is now the only person in the final 5 with an idol, and the only one before the immunity challenge that has a guaranteed spot in the final 4, and no one even knows about it. Very masterful round from Jesse, so he just had to get an A+. Episode 13 is the finale. I'm going to be honest, there's not a ton of meaningful social gameplay for Jesse to partake in this finale. He made the move of the season and skyrocketed up the target list. He has the game won, he just has to make it to Final Tribal Council. He's safe for this Final 5 round, and he banked on being able to win one of the final 4 challenges, either immunity or fire making. Surprisingly though, contradicting what I just said about Jesse being the biggest threat, when Owen won immunity and took Cassidy on reward, they disagreed about the decision for that night. They acknowledged that Jesse was a big threat, but Cassidy convinced Owen to vote Carla out because, just like Jesse to Cody, Cassidy didn't want to be seen as Carla's +1, and they agreed that Carla was better at challenges and fire making. While back at camp, Jesse and Carla pitched Cassidy to each other, which Jesse was on board with, but behind Jesse's back, Carla went campaigning against Jesse, which Cassidy made clear that wasn't happening. Cassidy told Jesse about this, which put him in a tough spot where he wanted Cassidy out, but the numbers just weren't there. So they went to Tribal Council. Jesse revealed Janine's idol, which shocked everyone. He and Carla talked some nonsense about potentially playing the idol on her, but none of that ever really got off the ground as Carla was voted out unanimously. And Jesse received his first vote of the game from Carla on her way out. For Jesse's player grade in the Final 5 round, I'm going to give him a B grade. It's good that he has a guaranteed way to make it out of the Final 5, so he got a B off that alone, but there's still some things that I don't like about his game right here. This is like one of the only times in the game so far that Jesse didn't really have that much sway in the vote. He wanted Cassidy out, but he couldn't get her out because if he played his idol on Carla, then he would have been voted out of the game because Carla put a vote onto him. So I don't like that they weren't able to get on the same page, which taking out Cassidy here probably could have been beneficial for both of them. This brings up the question of, what if Jesse just normally voted out Cody and kept all of the idols in play so Carla would be safe for this Final 5 round along with him? He got out Carla, which he mentioned in a post-game interview that she was good at fire making, so it was a good call, but he just didn't really have that much control over this vote despite making a show in front of the jury with his idol and everything and holding meetings and stuff. But although he didn't get his desired outcome, it doesn't really matter a whole ton. It's not enough to fail him because at the end of the day, he's in the Final 4 with 2 shots at making the Final Tribal, and he beats everyone left. Now getting to the Final 4 round. With Jesse being the biggest threat left, he's guaranteed to go into fire making if he loses immunity. Cassidy won immunity. Jesse tried to pitch to Cassidy that if she's actually the biggest and best player in the game, then she'll take out the biggest threat in fire making, but Cassidy wasn't buying any of that. This meant that Jesse had to make $1 million fire, which he wasn't ready for. When he was practicing, he struggled and he was tearing up about wanting to give his kids the security that he never had. They got to Tribal Council. He got put in the fire making challenge immediately along with Gabler because Cassidy decided that Gabler was the best fire maker. The jury was rooting for Jesse, and by the end of it all, his fire looked decent. It's just that Gabler broke the fire making record at the time, which means that that's the end of the road for Jesse in the game. He talked about how he was thinking about his family in that moment and how he had to fight for his whole life to get where he was at and how he gave it his all, and when he left, he got an emotional send-off with some nice music. And yeah, that's the end of Jesse's journey, gameplay wise, in Survivor 43. Jesse and Cody played a big part in determining the winner of this season, but that's going to be another video, part of these Survivor 43 videos that I'm rolling out. So yeah, for Jesse's player grade for the Final 4 round, I'm going to give him an A, which means that I completely stand by his decision to get rid of Cody. Jesse set up his final 4 round nicely when he got rid of the best fire maker in Sammy. Then Carla going at 5 really helped him out a lot. Jesse was not winning any challenges, so he got rid of the best fire makers to increase his chances of winning the fire making challenge. He lost in record time to Gabler, but that's just like a tough luck type of thing. Like, everyone on this season was good at challenges and fire making. He could have kept Cody around and got taken to the end, but that's a scenario where he probably loses, and I can't say that was Jesse's mistake, not having someone to take him to the end. There's multiple ways to win Survivor. Like, you don't have to be taken to the end. Like, you can win your way to the end. That's always something that gets completely forgotten when it comes to bashing Jesse's big move and saying that it was overrated because he had no path to the final tribal council. He had a clear path to the final tribal council. He just had to win a challenge, one of 2 challenges. A more valid question would be, knowing Jesse's weakness at challenges, would it make sense to put himself into a position where he would have to win a challenge to win the game? That's a better question than just automatically downplaying the move based on the result. But for that to happen, Jesse would have to play a completely different game to where it's not really worth going down all of those rabbit holes. Jesse put himself into a position where he only had to win 1 challenge to win the game unanimously, and I like those odds. It didn't work out for Jesse, but any Survivor player would want a situation like that. Also, I just want to address this here. Speaking of fire making, I can actually make the case that Jesse didn't get quote unquote saved by fire making, but fire making actually ruined his game. If there was no forced fire making, then he probably wouldn't have made the Cody move so early, and depending on how the game played out, he probably could have voted him out at 4. And although it wouldn't have been in this flashy, impressive blindside, like, he still would have maintained his cover enough to where he wasn't a threat at the final 4, and he could have taken Cody out at the final 4 and been in a final 3 with some random assortment of Gabler, Owen, Carla, and Cassidy, and he probably wins. I don't really look in Survivor spaces nowadays like I'm my own guy. I process all of this information on my own, but back in those Survivor 43 days, it was so annoying to see these posts talking about how Jesse got the best case scenario. He got a second shot because of fire making, while not even considering the possibility that fire making ruined his game and forced him to make the Cody move early. But yeah, like I said, I have no problem with how Jesse played the final 4 round. It just didn't work out in his favor, that's all. So yeah, that was the Survivor 43 story of Jesse and Cody. For overall player grades, I'm going to give Jesse an A+ and Cody an A- for the games that they played on this season. They totally dominated the game, and they were not broken up. Rather, they had the decision to break up that alliance at the final 6, so that means that there could have potentially been even more dominance had Jesse not blindsided Cody. And although I understand why Jesse made that move because it would guarantee his win if he got to the final tribal council, but sometimes I just look at that move and think, why? Jesse and Cody ran Survivor 43, and no disrespect to Gabler, the Gabler, like, he was actually the best person to win out of that final 3, but man, one of these guys definitely should have won Survivor 43. Even the jury agreed because they looked so sad when Jesse lost, and it felt like no matter the outcome, he was their winner. He just had an easy 8-0 sweep if he got to the final tribal council. But yeah, it's a solid season. It's actually the best of the new era so far, but this possibly could have been like a top 10 US season if one of these guys won. Like, they were just that good at the game. And it was funny how in the next recording cycle, when they shot 45 and 46, it was funny how in Survivor 45, they tried to recapture that magic by focusing in on Austin and Drew, but nah, you just can't recreate that. Like, Jesse and Cody were way better, and I hope to see them back on Survivor soon. Maybe get Cody on a second chance type of season, like maybe he could perform better if he wasn't so trusting. Maybe get Jesse on that Survivor 50 season that they're having for returning players that I hear of. Like, I don't know the exact details of Survivor 50, but I just heard it's for returning players, so hopefully Jesse gets the call. Maybe get both of them on that season on opposing tribes, because if they're on the same tribe, they got to be the first out or something, because everyone knows that they mean business. But yeah, I really enjoyed their Survivor 43 journey, and yeah, that is all for now. Stay strong, stay brutal, because above all else, it's anything to win.
I won't let you down, Bruce. I'll keep fighting. Always.